Landmines and jellyfish. Welcome back to Knives, I guess. And you know what they say about guys with big feet. Yeah, that's why women are scared of clowns. But do me a favor and hit that like button or the government will put bees in your mailbox. And we just did a live stream last night and we went back in on the Cold Steel 4MAX Scout. So, let's take a look at what we're holding, because it'll bother you if I don't, and you know I spoil you. So, first things first and most importantly, the pocket clip is tip up, which is the Lord's Carry. It's a reversible pocket clip. We've got the Gryvex scales right here. We got a thumb stud, so let's flick the stud. And we have got 4 inches of AUS 10A steel. So, let's recap what happened up until the live stream last night to get you back up to speed. So, I carried this for a week. I enjoyed it quite thoroughly. However, if you can see the surface of this Gryvex, it is like sandpaper, skateboard grip tape. So I had to take the pocket clip off and sand a smooth spot under the dingus end of the clip right here to make it carryable. Otherwise, it was tearing cloth on my pockets and just really a nightmare to get into and back out of the pocket with that clip. So, you got to do that if you want to carry one of these day in and day out, but otherwise, really good. So, I enjoyed carrying it. But, we got to the live stream, and this thing cut like garbage. I mean, absolute garbage on the cardboard. So, I knew that wasn't supposed to be what was happening, so we stopped and we tried to sharpen it. We were on the small Precision Adjust Elite, not the professional, and the clamp just wouldn't hold this thing. It wouldn't cooperate, and I found out one side of the edge was around 17 degrees. The other side was like 22, 24 degrees, something like that. Like, it was a bad job. Like, whoever did that, they must have turned a blind apprentice loose on this thing and just let him have a field day. So I went out to the garage. I got the 2x72 out. I hogged off a ton of material to get a pretty decent bevel, and I finished it off on the Worksharp Ken Onion belt grinder. In between the 2 little wheels on top, slack belted it for a convex edge. Now, it took a great edge off of that. Like, it took a really nice edge. A really nice edge. I like the edge the steel took, especially for something that's this much of a chunk. Like, you've got a thick blade here. Everything about this is beefy and somewhat overbuilt. And so we get to the live stream last night, and you know, I put the new edge on this and I put it back in the box for a random roll live stream. The D20 of Destiny picked this out for us and we got to play with it finally. So when we started this, we had a 169 on the edge sharpness tester. And by the way, I got to throw this out there. I know some of y'all have seen it a million times, but for new faces, I got to use the amount of time we spend cutting to keep track of the edge wear. It is catastrophically unmanageable to keep track of every single cut we do. You know, we stopped at one point and we counted a half hour's worth of cuts a while back. It was like 900. We go through a lot of cardboard, so just think a foot every second or a cut every second or so, 4 to 9 inches in that range. If you want to see how things go, just go back and check out the live stream and kind of fast forward through it to see what we're doing there. But, you know, we get consistent results. We get consistent, reliable results. These things are seeing the same parameters. So, that's how we do things here. It's good enough for the girls I gone out with. If you don't like it, that's totally fine. I understand. But we started at a 169, which is not a bad number at all. A lot of the factory edges we've been seeing are around 250, 270, somewhere in that range. So we cut for an hour with this thing. We went for the first hour, and so I checked it. And I got a 413 and a 424 up here, and back towards this way I saw a 553. Now that 553 is kind of suspect. Like, I do religiously stop and clean the blade off with acetone to get all the tape gunk off of it and all that. But once in a while something will stay behind and it will mess up that reading. But the 413 and 424, they were believable. At that point, it was still performing like D2 does. So we went for another hour, and the numbers got a lot more realistic. There was like a 466 here, no, right in here, sorry. There was a 442 right about here, and towards the back there was a 267. So, very believable numbers and pretty good edge wear on it. We hit the 3rd hour mark, and we hit a 607 up here. The cut turned into garbage, like we were having profound issues, and it was tearing the cardboard. It wasn't doing the thing. Failure to chooch. We got right in here a 607, the troublemaking spot. Up towards the belly, towards the tip, we got a 487, and back here at the heel, we got a 280. So, It took 3 hours to wear this out. So this is below D2. This is kind of in 8CR13 range for edge retention. Now, I know the OS 10A is geared more towards survivability and toughness necessarily, like than edge retention necessarily. I get that, so I'm not super mad at it. And with something this beefy that's designed to be abused, especially with this triad lock, which if you guys aren't familiar with Cold Steel's triad lock, these things have been tested to take 600 pounds of weight pushing down on the blade before the lock gives out. The triad lock is notorious for being incredibly strong. You can beat on this thing with no mercy, and unless you really go like Joe X nuts, it ain't gonna break. So the OS 10A on this, I am perfectly happy with it. I am happy with the performance, and after the string of duds we had, it's nice to have another one that can be sharpened and does a good job. And for a blade this thick, it pushed through the cardboard respectably decent. It still took a bit of pressure because, again, like this is a flat grind into the flat up top, and normally that's very slicey, but this is a thick piece of steel. This is a thick boy, and it definitely showed with the pressure I had to put into the cut. Now, the ergonomics were pretty good. Like, my hand is fine. The only thing I had was the mildest bit of hot spotting from the grippy surface right here, rubbing right here and exfoliating my skin as I went. There was a hazed out spot with just dry skin packed in there over the course of the night. It's worn off for the most part, but I can still see some of it, and there's a little bit right here from farther down my hand. Again, it didn't really hurt that much, but, you know, unless you're doing a lot of extended cuts or a lot of pressure cuts trying to make points on a stick or something like that, you'll never notice it. You know, if you're carrying like I do and you're in the environment I'm in where it's a concrete cowboy carry and you're just breaking down some boxes and carrying it for a giant oversized toy, you'll never notice it. But if I were to be outdoors playing around and I wanted a folder I could keep in my pocket, I'd be reaching for this or maybe the AD10. That S35VN or the OS 10A, I'd be happy with either. The S35VN that I did tested out a bit better than the OS 10A, but OS 10A is fine. It's still a good steel that keeps the price down, so I'm always happy to see that. Now, I did sharpen this back up. I pulled out the Ken Onion belt grinder, and I ran this through it a couple of times and made sure I got a good burr. Last night, very tired after doing all that, so I didn't quite spend the amount of time sharpening it that I feel like I needed to, and I didn't get all the stropping compound off of the blade before I was doing my testing. Realized that today and got that cleaned off and got a better, cleaner cut. I have not put it on the electronic tester yet, so I'll show you guys what that thing's all about. But I sharpened this and I stropped it out with Cutting Lace EDC's Diamond Emulsion. I'm going to link off to that in the comments, so if you want to step up your stropping game, you have that option. I am not making any money off of that. I am just trying to help a small business out and support a friend of the channel. Just throwing that out there. But let's take a look at our edge after all that work. You know, for a blade that's this beefy, that is really good. That is a really good cut, and like interrupting like that, you know, an interrupting cut that stops and then starts again doesn't work so good unless you got a really nice edge. So for something this beefy, that is a good cut. That is a really good cut for something that thick and overbuilt, like that much of a chunk. I will happily take that any day of the week. Sorry about that. We just hit the ring light. I gotta love the lack of space I have here. Let's get this straight. That will bother me. That will bother me so much. But the electronic edge tester, kindly provided by you guys through your super chat donations, channel memberships, what have you. I am always grateful. I always will be. Thank you so much for that. But how this works is it measures the number of grams of force it takes to cut through the wire on this calibrated test clip. So we're gonna get one good sample off of this in the belly area where we saw like a lot of the worst damage, just to see how much of an edge it took. The number is going to be different from last night. I tried to sharpen it again, so let's see what we get. But the lower the number, the better. The lower the number, the better. 235. So the 235 is still a nice clean edge. That is where we normally get factory edges, stuff like that. Like I said, a lot of good edges have been in the 235s. It probably could have been better, but I will say the belts on that belt grinder have really been given what for quite a few times, so I need to replace those. But you know, it takes a really good edge. That AUS 10A takes a really good edge, and like it takes a good edge. And of course, I didn't really have a lot of control over the angle. I don't have like a fixed angle system for that. I am freehanding it on that slack belt, and I'm just going through and leaning it back until my ancestors say, "That is good, my child," and working from there. Now, I will say with that grinder, there is a propensity for the tip to go up and round back this way, the bevel. It's really hard to control that. It really is. Because there's no support right here at the end. So the belt does things at the tip that it wouldn't do on the belly. And that's kind of the price of admission. You have to really, really have the perfect touch with it to get a perfect, clean looking edge that looks like it could have come from the factory. I don't have that skill. That's just me. But so this has gone from having a factory edge that was worse than a used blow-up doll from a Temu return pallet to a really good edge, just getting that geometry straightened out. And, you know, it cut well. This is something I'd be happy to carry for a long time. And if I was working outdoors in the environment I used to work in, oh boy, you bet your sweet bippy I would have this thing on me most of the time. Man, I like this thing. So, again, at the end of the day, the AUS 10A takes a great edge. The edge retention is certainly good enough. I am willing to accept that edge retention and be happy about it. And yeah, this is a fun knife to carry. This is a fun knife to carry. Like, I don't like lockbacks just because of two-handed closing. I like the convenience of one-handed closing, but I will always make an exception on that for the Triad lock. It's overbuilt. It's strong. I just like carrying stuff like that. I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it, but I need it. So, yeah, this thing was fantastic. It performed really well after I fixed the edge on it, and this is where geometry comes in and plays a huge part in all of this. And the geometry on this is very thick behind the edge, which there's not much I can do about it with the thickness of the steel. But the edge, the bevel's a lot more even. It probably isn't perfect as far as like the angles on both sides, but I got a good one on here, and I did what I know how to do. So yeah, if you're willing to roll the dice on having to fix the edge geometry, this is definitely a great value. I think they're like 65 bucks. This one, however, was a gift from Adam for America, so let's take a second to thank him in the comments for making this happen. I traded some beads. He sent me this and a bunch of other stuff. Very, very happy with that. Very, very grateful. So, can't think of much else to add. So, all that being said, thanks for looking at my crap. Subscribers, you guys are awesome. Y'all keep coming in. I appreciate you so, so much. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We got our live streams, regular videos. There's plenty of activities. Comments, I love some feedback. Let me know what you think about this. If you have a 4MAX Scout, please tell me how your factory edge came out. And all that being said, y'all have a nice day.